Hi friends, and welcome to my channel. If we haven't met, I'm Avonlea, a habit, health, and mindset coach. I really focus on tying mental and physical health together to help you to build habits that are sustainable so that you can create the life that you have always dreamed of. Today's video is all about the books that have shaped my journey and the women I coach. Books that help you to become her, the grounded, confident, purpose-driven woman you knew you were made to be. We're calling her the It Girl, but not the trendy hustle culture version. This is about becoming your authentic self, deeply rooted, fully alive, and aligned in every part of your life. If you are someone who loves personal growth, psychology, and practical transformation, you're in the right place. I'll be sharing 8 books that have changed the way I think, how I live, and how I help women like you create lasting change with identity, habits, and healing. Let's dive in. Okay, book number 1 is The Gap and the Gain. This book shaped my perspective on how I measure success. I think in the world today, success we often see as a title, a position, a certain amount of money, or some kind of status. In this book, Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy show us how happiness can increase if we change our perspective on what success is. So if we measure progress by how far we have come, which is the gain, and not how far we have to go, which is the gap between where we are and where we're going, then we're gonna have a lot more happiness and satisfaction in our goals. They talk about measuring backwards, not forward. So instead of saying, I'm currently here in my goal and I have this far to go, we're saying, look how far you've come. And you're measuring your success based off of the gain, so you've come this far, versus the gap from where you are to where you are going. This shifts your mindset from a lack and a scarcity to gratitude and abundance. And when we're setting goals, it is so important that they are more motivated by love and excitement and accomplishment versus fear and lack and scarcity. In this book, we celebrate progress over perfection. Again, we are looking at how far we've come, not how far we have to go left. This builds a lot of resilience and optimism as well. This book teaches that as we measure the gain instead of the gap, we are 25% happier. I feel like this is a really important mindset to adapt because it also helps us to compare ourselves, to our past self, instead of to others. We set our goals because we're comparing ourselves to others and other accomplishments that other people have achieved. Whereas we're gonna be more successful and more satisfied if we just compare ourselves to our past selves and then focus on the progress we've made and celebrate those little wins along the way. So once you've got that mindset shift down, let's talk about how you're gonna build a new version of yourself. The second book is Atomic Habits, and this is a classic. You've probably all heard about Atomic Habits, but I love this book. James Clear teaches how small, simple actions can shape our identity and how systems beat motivation every single time. Most often, we set goals and we strive to achieve a certain outcome. But what happens is we're constantly fighting ourselves to achieve this certain outcome, and we kind of box ourselves in. And in Atomic Habits, James Clear teaches that we need to be setting identity-based habits. That as we focus on becoming a person, instead of just achieving this outcome, we're gonna be a lot more successful. So I'll give you an example. Instead of saying, I want to run a marathon at the end of this year, we want you to focus on who you are becoming in the process. You wanna become a runner. You wanna be an athlete. You wanna be fit, right? Those are identity-based habits. What do you need to do consistently every single day or every week or every month to become a person who runs marathons? When it's tied to your identity, it's aligned with your purpose, and it's going to be so much more sustainable, and it's going to be a habit and a goal that is part of your life that you consistently repeat. So it needs to be tied to your identity. He also talks about the importance of making habits obvious, attractive, desirable, easy, and satisfying. So this signals to the brain that we want to keep doing it, right? It's really going to make a sustainable habit. He also talks about compound growth. So if we can improve 1% every single day, then we will be 37 times better every year. Again, this is putting the success and goal on who we are becoming instead of what we are achieving. One quote I love from this book is, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you want to become." And I love that because 40% of our daily actions are habitual. We are habitual creatures, and we strive off of doing the same thing every single day. So what we do every single day really shapes our identity. And that's why habits are so important. So who do you want to become? Let's dive into that with the next book. The third book I want to talk about is Untamed. This book is by Glennon Doyle, and she shares her journey of breaking free from societal norms and expectations to live the life aligned with her truest self. I did not realize how many expectations and cultural pressures were put on me during my childhood and even into my adulthood that didn't feel completely aligned with myself and who I wanted to be. This book really broke it down and helped me to see another perspective and have the courage to break free of those expectations and be authentically me. She really talks about trusting yourself, letting go of people pleasing, and really evaluating and questioning everything you've ever been told, which can sound a little chaotic. But in the long run, it'll help you to be more grounded in who you are. Research teaches us that 70% of women feel pressure to conform to expectations that don't reflect who they truly are. That is wild. So we have to break free of these pressures, expectations, and thoughts that are really holding us back. But it can be really tricky because as we really strive to be our authentic self and break free from these limiting beliefs, often I see in my clients that perfectionism starts to creep in. And perfectionism is so inhibiting to our growth. Which brings me to the fourth book. This is one that I love, and it's The Gifts of Imperfection by Brené Brown. Also, I love Everything by Brené Brown. This one really explains how embracing vulnerability and imperfection is the key to authentic living, connection, and worthiness. She talks about the difference between perfectionism and self-improvement. And I think this is so key because a lot of us, especially as women, get trapped in these perfectionistic thinking cycles, and it really boxes us in and creates limited thinking. So perfectionism is where you want to achieve something for someone else or to look a certain way. Self-improvement is what you want to do for you and for your life. It's something that feels aligned and that makes you feel alive and happy. Perfectionism will always bring shame, and it's usually something you'll feel pretty crappy about. Perfectionism is something that you feel like you have to prove, whereas self-improvement is something that's exciting and allows you to really grow and be content with where you're at. So in order to combat this perfectionism, you really have to question the thoughts in your head and minimize any shame that comes up when focusing on a habit or a goal. Other antidotes to perfectionism are cultivating authenticity, gratitude, and rest. When you focus on the positive, more positive is brought into your life and forces the negativity and the perfectionism and the limiting beliefs to kind of fizzle away. Shame is born in the thought of supposed to or should. Okay, so I always say, do not should yourself. Do not say you're supposed to do this or that, because those are limiting beliefs that are holding you back and creating this perfectionism. I love Brené Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection, because it teaches it is perfectly okay to be human, to be imperfect, to be vulnerable. And in fact, life is better that way. That is how we connect to other people and really grow and thrive in this world, which is something that we really need. 85% of women struggle with perfectionistic standards and not feeling good enough. But honestly, most of the time, it's all in our head. So we need to slow down and embrace our imperfection. It's a part of life and it's a part of being human. The fifth book really talks about slowing down and silencing those thoughts and those fears. And this book is called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. This one is by John Mark Comer, and he deep dives into the hustle culture and the fast-paced lives that most of us are living. He talks about how it is draining our souls and actually hindering our progress. This is actually a Christian-based book, so it gives a lot of examples from the Bible of how Christ actually slowed down and how us slowing down and eliminating hurry helps us to be more Christ-like. I use a lot of Christian and faith-based principles in my coaching, so this book really resonates with me because I also see that we live in a world that is constantly hustling and bustling and doing more and wanting more. To live a Christ-centered life, we have to simplify. We have to be centered. We have to bring it in. We have to slow down. We have to rest and focus on the things that are most important. So he talks about how hurrying is the enemy to peace and purpose. It completely distracts us from what we are here to do. He talks about various spiritual rituals like the Sabbath day, stillness, mindfulness, and different things that we can do to create more stillness in our life and eliminate hurry. He talks about reclaiming boundaries, which another book I love is Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. Talks about how to say no and really take control of your life. But The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry talks about it as well. Not as in depth, but I think this principle is just so crucial if you want to live a fulfilling life, because you have to learn to say no to things that are not most important and not aligned with yourself and with God. It talks about being really intentional with your time, focusing on deep work, and focusing on your strengths. One of my favorite quotes from this book is this: hurry is not just a disordered schedule. Hurry is a disordered heart. I fully agree. 87% of people report feeling overwhelmed by busyness, and it's really unnecessary. Sure, we live in a world that's constantly demanding more. It's unnecessary. It's not how God intended our lives to be. And so take the time to slow down, to be more intentional, and eliminate hurry. As we slow down, we gain more meaning to our lives. We also reframe success and beliefs. Our values might shift because we're more centered, which leads me to my 6th book, which is Die with Zero. So this is a financial kind of money book, and I threw it in here because it completely shifted my perspective. I am a girl who is all about big bucks and being successful in that way. I love the podcast Financial Independence. It's actually called Choose FI. And I love that idea of retiring early and having time and money freedom to do whatever you want and to really live out your purpose. But this book completely changed the game for me because it really talks about value-based spending and simplifying your life. I got caught in the hustle culture with money where it's like, I want more, I want to retire early, I want this for my family. And I just got caught in all of these thoughts, and I thought, they're very well-intentioned, but this book brought me back down to earth and really taught me that it's not about making as much money as you can or retiring early. It's about spending money on things that you value now. It talked about different seasons of life and how you're going to value different things and you're going to want to spend on different things throughout your life. For example, 61% of those who are retired regret not traveling while they were younger, when they have the time and the energy. They might not have as much money, but it's so much more enjoyable when you feel healthier and you have more energy and you have less family or people that you want to spend time with that are close to home. And so it talks about taking the opportunity to do those things like traveling now when you're younger instead of waiting until you make a certain amount of money. It talks about how creating memories are your dividends. Those memories and experiences are the things in life that really make life worth living. And that's going to be your payment. It talks about minimizing, kind of living like a minimalist. And it talks about how less is more, that you want experiences over things, materialistic things. So it really just helped me to recenter on the things that I value and the things that matter most to me, and not let a scarcity mindset of money hold me back. Because when I die, I don't need millions of dollars in my account. I need to use that money now on things that I truly value. So just totally shifted my perspective, and it's a book that I recommend to everyone. Okay, another one that completely shifted my perspective is book number 7, which is More Than a Body. I grew up in a Christian culture that really values modesty. But with that, and the way that I think Christianity teaches, modesty often comes some body shame culture and some body image issues. And before I was a habit health and mindset coach, I was strictly a nutritionist and a health coach. And I saw this with my clients constantly. Every single woman struggled with perfectionism, body image issues, and eating disorders. And they constantly picked apart their body and how they looked. And it broke my heart. And that's why I shifted, and why now I really focus on the mindset and the habits of creating a happy and healthy life, because I didn't want to add to this culture. So this book really breaks it down and really helps women, but everyone, to overcome that shame culture and see their body for an instrument, not an ornament. Really interesting. Instead of an object, it's a tool, and it's a resource, and it's an instrument to do good in the world. It really helps to shift that mindset and opt out of self-objectification. Talks about how self-worth is not your appearance, which is so huge, and I just see women struggle with it, and I've struggled with it in the past, and it really holds us back. It really talks about how you are capable of more than just looking good or just your appearance. There is so much more about you and who you are and who you're becoming and who God made you to be. And so this book totally changed my perspective, and I think everybody needs to read it. Okay, as you understand your worth and your value to the world, it's natural to want to create healthier and deeper relationships. And this one's a classic, but book number 8 is Attached. This book explains attachment theory, which essentially is your method for building relationships and connecting with others. Attachment theory is something you develop within the first 18 months of life with your parents. This book talks about friendships and romantic relationships, and I just find it so important to understand what your attachment style is. So there's anxious, secure, and avoidant, and both avoidant and anxious are insecure attachment styles. So really, within your first 18 months of life, you develop one of these 3, and then you can adjust and you can grow, but you have to be aware of where you're starting and what your attachment style was from such an early age. It doesn't mean that you have to change. Being an insecure attachment style is not a bad thing, but understanding your attachment style can really benefit your relationships and how you interact with others. It talks about how relationships are less about chemistry and more about compatibility. And compatibility is about emotional safety. And your attachment style really plays into that, on how emotionally safe you're gonna feel in certain relationships and what you need to do in order to feel emotionally safe in relationships. So if you want better relationships and deeper connections in your life, understand your attachment style and examine this book. It also really helps you to understand other people. So if you have a romantic partner or friendships that you're kind of wondering about, this book can really help you to understand the other person and what their needs are and what their natural tendencies are in the relationship. Because 50% of people have an insecure attachment style, so they're either avoidant or anxious. Very common, very normal thing, but it's about learning how to work with yourself and work with others. Okay, that is our 8 books, but I'm gonna give you 2 bonus books. The 9th book is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This book I read in 8th grade and fell in love with it. I knew that I wanted to be some type of habit or health coach when I read this book because I think it's so empowering. So it talks about 7 habits that you can build in order to live your happiest and healthiest life. So the 7 habits are: be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win, seek first to understand, synergize, and sharpen your saw. 80% of success is due to habits and mindset, not talent. So if you really want to be successful in life and live out your dream, you have to develop sustainable habits that support who you want to become. The other book that I would recommend is called The Power by Rhonda Byrne. And if you're into law of attraction, manifestation type of stuff, this book teaches all about that, but with a perspective of love and gratitude are so important for your mindset and overall health. So this is a really good one if you wanted creating an abundance mindset. Okay, y'all, it's been so fun to chat with you about some of my favorite books. I hope this was helpful, and we'll see you next time.